Good morning. It is Wednesday, May the 5th, 2021 with the CBC Morning Report. I'm Pearson Bowen. In what is being described as a landmark ruling in Barbados public law, there is to be no automatic dismissal in the public service in circumstances that involve conviction. This after former security guard Wilbert Lynch's 2011 dismissal was struck down by Madam Justice Shauna Griffith as unlawful and his salary restored. Back in 2010, Lynch was found guilty in the District A Magistrates Court of stealing an $11 bottle of rum from Carlton Supermarket. Even though no conviction was recorded against him, he was dismissed from his job and his appeal to the Privy Council was rejected. His attorney, Gregory Nichols, says the ruling sets an important framework for the future.
The process of fairness has been reinforced by the court in respect of how you discipline public officers. No longer can public officers be disciplined without being present in the room where their matter is being considered. No longer can public officers be disciplined by receiving a letter telling them that they have been disciplined. And the court went through a very systematic process by which it looked at the law. It looked at the law under the Public Service Act, the Code of Conduct and Discipline, the Code of Conduct and Ethics, and also the Code of Discipline in Public Service, those codes, and the interrelation with the Public Service Regulations from 1978.
Mr. Nichols says the process was unjust for too long.
His appeal was heard and determined, and he wasn't present. He made no representations not orally. He made no representations in writing. He didn't get a chance to send a representative, a trade union representative, a lawyer or friend or someone to say something on his behalf. He got a letter saying that the Governor General has considered the matter and will accept the advice of the Service Commission, and he was fired.
Well, in a similar ruling, the court also struck down the dismissal of prison officer Kenrick Carmichael as unlawful. He was represented by Hal Gollop, QC. We're going to take a break right here. When we come back, some COVID-19 updates. Two males and one female were identified from among the 401 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Lab on Monday. Meanwhile, 13 people recovered from the virus and were discharged. There are currently 81 people in isolation. Confirmed COVID-19 cases recorded since March 2020 have moved now to 3,884 with 3,817 recoveries. As revealed earlier this week, Barbados recorded its 45th COVID-19 related death, a 63-year-old man who was admitted to the Harrison Point Isolation Facility on April the 23rd. 75,006 people have been vaccinated, and to date, 19,985 of them have been fully vaccinated. In Guyana, the COVID-19 vaccination rate in Region 10 continues to lag behind the rest of the country. This has prompted several government ministries and regional officials to visit various vaccination sites to encourage residents to take the vaccine.
11 mobile vaccination sites were set up at strategic locations across Region 10 in an effort to make the jab more accessible to residents. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony, along with his cabinet colleagues Dr. Ashley Singh, Hugh Todd, Pauline Sukai and Anand Prasad, interacted with staff manning these sites as well as residents on Sunday.
We are hopeful that with today's exercise that we'll be able to talk to as much people as possible, and hopefully we can work with you to dispel some of those myths. We have today, from the Ministry of Health point of view, we have 11 different sites across Region 10. 2 right now is in the river, and they're going to be working out of the health centers there. And we have 9 in and around Linden itself.
Residents were informed of the actions taken at the national level to combat the deadly virus.
We've been ramping up the capabilities of the public health system to be able to cope with the demands of COVID-19. So we've had to accelerate the preparation of our public health facilities to be able to receive and attend to patients who sadly have been infected with COVID-19. So we've invested very heavily in a specialized COVID-19 healthcare facility at Liliandal, the Ocean View COVID-19 hospital, which now has the capabilities of receiving and attending to the needs of those who have been infected by COVID-19.
Just about 8.2% of the adult population in Region 10 has been vaccinated. 80% of the total population would have to be inoculated for Guyana to achieve herd immunity.
Grenada has announced a ban on people entering the island with a travel history that includes visits to India and Brazil in the last 14 days. This as it seeks to curb the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. Health Minister Nicholas Steele says this means that no one with a 14-day travel history from India or Brazil will be allowed to enter Grenada. He says people will have to spend the relevant time in a third-party state that will allow them to enter. He also says Cabinet has agreed to restrict travelers from the 2 countries on the advice of the COVID Committee and the Chief Medical Officer. U.S. President Joe Biden has announced a goal to have 70% of U.S. adults vaccinated with at least one COVID-19 vaccine and 160 million adults fully vaccinated by July the 4th, Independence Day holiday. He also says the United States will send 10% of its AstraZeneca vaccine doses to other nations, including Canada, Mexico, and another unnamed nation that he's speaking with.
The headline coming out of the president's announcement is that despite the fact that there's a lot of supply in terms of vaccination here in the U.S., that supply now exceeds the demand. And the real fear is that people are not going to get vaccinated for a number of different reasons, whether it be because it is too difficult to find a location, whether it's hard to get to that location, or they simply don't understand the technology of maybe having to make the appointment online. So what we're seeing is a major shift in health policy from the United States in terms of trying to make what I think is a pretty ambitious goal that's been outlined by the U.S. president. That is to try by July 4th, the American Independence Day holiday, have 70% of Americans with at least one shot in their arm. And right now, only about 32% of Americans are fully vaccinated. About 56% have at least one shot. So this is an ambitious goal. You've got the president outlining there how he believes that this can happen, walk-in appointments, getting children vaccinated once that is approved, and also making it easy to get an appointment or find a location simply by texting. Add to that, one of the big problems in rural areas is that there simply isn't the supply. We know that the president is going to continue in his remarks to talk about how states that are not using all of their supply will lose it. Use it or lose it is the phrase, and it will be given to other states where it is needed more.
And then, Kimberly, good news for parents, or parents particularly of 12 to 15-year-olds. I mean, it's nothing confirmed, and he's saying it will be the FDA that makes the final decision on when adolescents can get the shot. But again, making it available. And this has become such a difficult point in the United States, hasn't it? Schooling, children protection, going to school, not going to school, and the huge upheaval that has for children and parents.
Yeah, and this is where the government is spending tens of millions of dollars in education, because their hope is that by August, when children start to return to school, that 12 to 15-year age group will be getting vaccinated or already vaccinated. So they're making it easier. The problem is, when it comes to the kids, they're going to have an uphill battle in the U.S. because there is a lot of vaccine hesitancy, not just from adults, but especially when it comes to children. Many in the United States have no problem getting a vaccine as an adult, but they're not so sure about their child, given the fact that many of them have their reproductive years ahead of them, and they're not 100% certain about the data. So that's going to be a challenge for this government. They recognize that. That's why they are investing in education as well as science and the data to back up the claim that this is the right way to go in order to get those schools open.
With COVID cases extremely high in Brazil, that country is still fighting a trend where many citizens are not showing up for their second COVID vaccination.
Brazilians had to wait much longer than expected to get their vaccines. The mass inoculation campaign in Latin America's largest country got off to a late and rocky start in mid-January. So far, only 15% of the population has received the first dose, according to a media consortium. But 6% of those lucky ones never showed up for the second shot.
I almost didn't. I had to take an anxiety pill to make it here for my second shot of AstraZeneca. I was so scared, as were many standing in line with me. We were hearing all these stories about blood clots, and now I'm glad I came.
Doctors say that some people have not gone back because they forgot or simply thought that one shot was enough.
Lack of information and fake news spread by those who deny the pandemic are part of the problem. But we are also facing problems with the second dose because of poor government planning.
16 states have run out of China's CoronaVac vaccine, one of the two most used in Brazil. Many showed up for their second dose, only to be told there were none.
They told me to return another day, but will there be any?
It's an embarrassment. This is a joke for those bloody politicians.
Doctors and scientists blame former Health Minister Eduardo Pazuello for the problem.
The health ministry instructed mayors and governors to use all their supplies to speed up the delivery of first dose, instead of telling them to save half of the stock to guarantee the second dose. The government was hoping more vaccines would arrive in time. That did not happen.
There have been delays in the delivery of vaccines and of supplies to produce them locally. India, one of Brazil's main suppliers, is at the center of the epidemic now and dealing with a health catastrophe. But Brazil has just received the first batch of 1 million Pfizer vaccine doses. The lack of planning will be discussed this week by the Senate committee investigating the government's handling of the pandemic. Former Health Minister Pazuello will be called to testify on Wednesday. He will be asked to explain why Brazil took so long to accept Pfizer's offer to begin providing millions of doses last year, doses that only just started to arrive.
Coming up on Morning Barbados today is International Midwives Day. I can hear some of you asking, we still have them? Yes, we do. So today we'll meet two young ladies who are midwives as they celebrate International Midwives Day. What is the association doing to mark that occasion? We'll also continue our conversation with our oncologist, gynecologist about ovarian cancer and the link with breast cancer, so join us for that. We'll also hear the story of a very inspiring author who believes leading beside means more than just simply leading beside. Dr. Suzette Husbands will join us right here on Morning Barbados as she shares the details of her latest book. That and a whole lot more right here on Morning Barbados straight ahead. But this is the Morning Report. We're back after this break. Government has put a pause on activity at B's Recycling to ensure specific environmental concerns are urgently addressed. Minister of Home Affairs Wilfred Abrams made that disclosure yesterday, saying government, along with the Barbados Fire Service and the Pan American Health Organization, visited the 4-acre site and the owners have been cooperating with the measures given.
Based on the magnitude of the problem at the facility, the team's aim is to reduce the hazards associated with stockpiles of waste, reduce the height of the stockpiles, and create an access around it, to utilize the waste as a resource in order to save land and quarry space, and to assess the level of soil contamination and remediate as necessary. The Chief Fire Officer is of the view that if the situation is not immediately rectified, a fire or incident at this location can result in an environmental disaster. Currently, a team of workers, including the Barbados Fire Service, members of the Sanitation Service Authority, and members of private enterprise are working on site in conjunction with Mr. Paul Bino, the manager of the company, to mitigate the situation.
The minister is also asking the public to assist them in their efforts to correct the situation at the recycling company.
We looked at the site, we assessed the danger, we took recommendations from all the experts and stakeholders who deal with these things, and we took action to prevent anything. The fire service has also been using infrared and heat detecting imagery to verify that there's no combustion actually going on at the site. But this is a case where we didn't want to wait for any combustion. We decided to act so that if combustion did happen, it could be brought under control. As it stands now, or as it stood a week ago, if that pile had started to burn, there would have been no way to get to the middle of the pile, and we would just have simply had to let it burn out until it stopped. And that is a situation that was not acceptable to either myself, the government, or the Chief Fire Officer.
Another school had to bring classes to a temporary halt yesterday after some teachers complained about respiratory issues stemming from the presence of ash on the school compound. When a CBC team visited the Blackman and Gollop Primary School, cleanup efforts were underway. Chief Education Officer Joy Adamson says systems were put in place to keep students engaged during that time.
We had some teachers who reported that they were not feeling, unwell, and they had some respiratory issues, so they had to leave because of the dust. I visited the school myself, and it is pretty clean. There's still some fixing of furniture because, that school would have been used as an isolation center. There was a lot of cleaning to be done. It's a large plant, but the principals have put things in place for supervision, and the students were engaged.
And also indicated that the issue which resulted in the delays at some school on Monday were being addressed.
At Corrigan Party, the Form 5s are in. Some remedial work is still going on, but they are working. At Alexandra, we have both the 5th and the 6th form. At Combermere, there were some issues at the start yesterday. Their 6th form is now in. This morning, there was also a report about issues at St. Paul's, and I visited St. Paul's. There's full attendance for the class 3s on that site. It seems that this morning, Carl Williams turned up to do some work, and we were aware of that, so we actually put a pause so that they will come back later and continue to do the work.
Well, just like their colleagues in the public primary school system, officials at the island's private schools have also been welcoming students back to the physical classroom for the first time since last year, and their principals are reporting a smooth return to face-to-face classes. Aliyah Briggs has that story.
For the first time since December, some private school students returned to face-to-face classes. The St. Gabriel School is one of them. According to Assistant Principal Amanda James, the school is employing a staggered re-entry approach. Ms. James says the transition back into the classroom has been relatively smooth. She says all classes are expected to return to the physical classroom tomorrow.
The first day was relatively smooth. I was very pleased with it. The teachers, office staff, everyone chipped in and helped to make it the smooth running. We took anything that we need to tweak, we tweaked, but I was very pleased overall with how the first day went. Presently we have approximately 275 children in at the moment. We've staggered the entry to follow protocols, and by tomorrow all of our pupils will be back in.
St. Gabriel's is also incorporating online teaching technology to reach students with health challenges who may not be able to return to school physically. But Ms. James says the students are eager to be back.
They're all very happy to be back in. We do have some that haven't returned back in for health reasons, but the majority are very happy to be back in school. I mean, children just like that face-to-face interaction. Online was okay for some, but face-to-face is better. Children need that interaction with their teachers.
I also visited the Ursuline Convent School where 4th and 5th form students returned to the classroom yesterday. Some 4th form students were seen completing their CSEC Food and Nutrition SBA. While ash cleanup efforts delayed classes for some schools, Principal of St. Ursula's and St. Francis Cheryl Wade says they were able to resume face-to-face teaching without a hitch after students and parents undertook an extensive cleaning operation.
We have 3 large car park areas. They washed them all down, and the parents came from the PTA, a representation of the parents came and shoveled up the dust, and their children came with them. I was saying we were very pleased to see that these children had inculcated the school's motto, which is Serviam, which is service, and they came along. Even some children who had actually left the school came along with their parents to help make the school ready.
The school's swimming pool was also severely affected by the heavy ashfall. With swimming on the curriculum, Ms. Wade says the school was thoroughly cleaned and swimming classes will resume in short order.
They were able to vacuum up all of the dust from the bottom, and our swim coach tells me that the pool was shocked. That's what you call it. Give it a dose of some chemical that kills whatever is in it. So the pool has been treated. And within the next few days or so, I expect that we'll be able to use it.
Some St. Ursula's students shared how they felt about returning to face-to-face class.
I do miss online classes because I'm not an early morning person. I don't like to wake up early. But in terms of learning, I feel I learn better online. In school, because you're more connected with a teacher.
I like seeing everybody again, and I feel like the work's going to get easier because I have less distractions and I'm in a working environment.
Because we are coming up to SBAs and we have to do CSCs and we have to meet the deadlines, that is going to be more easier for us to communicate with the teacher instead of being online. Because when you're online, you're at home, you have so many distractions around you.
Aaliyah Briggs, CBC News.
Thanks, Aaliyah. 2 St. Michael youth have been remanded to Her Majesty's Prison at Dodds on a charge of murder. They are 19-year-old Jermaine Selassie Bartlett of Block 3A Ferniehurst and 21-year-old Azari Zidane Agard of 5D Neptune Road, Deacons Farm. Bartlett and Agard appeared before Chief Magistrate Ian Weeks in the District A Criminal Court, charged for the murder of Shaken Joseph of President Kennedy Drive. 19-year-old Joseph was shot and killed on April the 10th this year while at Mears Road, Richmond, St. Michael. Police say both Agard and Bartlett were also charged for the offence of use of a firearm. In addition, Agard was also charged for the offence of possession of ammunition. They were not required to plead to the indictable offences. Both are scheduled to reappear in court on May the 31st. France's National Assembly has approved a wide-ranging climate change bill that will prevent future airport expansions, prohibit open-air terrace heaters, and reduce packaging waste. France aims to cut greenhouse emissions by 40% by 2030 compared with 1990 levels, but environmental activists say it is dragging its feet.
The high-speed train from Paris to the western French city of Nantes takes 2.5 hours. People can also fly between the two cities, but that is set to change. Under French President Emmanuel Macron's new climate law, some short internal flights will be banned to help lower carbon emissions.
So this is one of 5 intercity journeys in France, which will now only be possible by road or train.
The climate law aims to reduce carbon emissions in France by 40% by 2030, with measures targeting industry, food and housing. It will also encourage grassroots projects like this wind farm located an hour from Nantes. It's financed and co-owned by nearly 400 local residents and a renewable energy company.
I'm not sure this law would change everything, but at least we consider it as a good first step towards a model where we have more and more locals. We want to take on the energy transition and invest in that kind of things.
Macron has made tackling climate change a presidential priority. Some scientists say that parts of coastal France could be submerged by rising water levels by the end of the century.
Throughout his presidency, Emmanuel Macron has projected an image of himself as a leader in the fight against climate change. For his supporters, the new law is proof of his ambition, but others say that it fails to respond to the climate emergency.
Nantes has a reputation for innovative environmental policy. The deputy mayor says Macron's law is disappointing because it doesn't do enough to cut carbon emissions.
The urgency is really here. We have 10 years to really radically change things, and now we're just continuing to take little steps forward that in fact will move us backwards.
William Ocamp was part of a citizens' council set up by Macron to come up with proposals for the climate law. He says the government ignored many of the council's suggestions because of pressure from industrial lobby groups.
We should not lose hope about climate action, let's say, but definitely what happened here is the missed opportunity to do something big.
Green parties are on the rise in France, and climate change is expected to be a key issue in next year's presidential election. The sense among many environmental campaigners, though, is that Macron has missed a chance to win their support.
In sports, the 2021 Indian Premier League has been postponed following several positive COVID-19 cases across franchises over the past couple of days. The West Indies players are not among those who have tested positive.
If the news for the IPL fans yesterday was gloomy, it's only gotten worse today, as the 2021 season of the Indian Premier League now stands indefinitely postponed after at least 2 more cases appeared to have been positive in 2 different camps. Amit Mishra in the Delhi Capitals and Ridhiman Saha in the Sunrisers Hyderabad camp. This became a matter.
Conditions as recorded this morning at the Met Office of the Grantley Adams International Airport. What's in the weather forecast for today? At the moment, Barbados is partly cloudy and windy with 27 degrees at the moment Celsius. The winds are coming from the east at 32 kilometers an hour. The tides today, we have a low tide scheduled for 11 minutes after 6 this evening and a high tide for 18 minutes after 11 this morning. Heading to the seas today, swells are calm to moderate in open water up to 2 meters but steady. In the forecast for Barbados today, a mix of sunshine and clouds with a few brief scattered light showers. While for Barbados tonight, partly cloudy with a few brief scattered light showers. Over the Lesser Antilles, today and tonight, fair to occasionally cloudy with brief scattered showers. Here's a look now at some international forecast conditions. And that's it for today's edition of The Morning Report. I'm Pearson Bowen.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning Barbados. Good morning, good morning to you. Good morning, morning Barbados.
To you indeed on Wednesday, the 5th of May 2021. I'm Pearson Bowen, welcoming you to Morning Barbados. A very good morning to those of you in Barbados and all Barbadians and others all over the world watching us on our Facebook stream, CBC Barbados on Facebook, or on our YouTube channel, Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. It is indeed a pleasure for you to join us today. Coming up this morning, we will be connecting with a deputy head of a museum to find out just how has this pandemic affected them and their ability to allow people to engage with the artifacts at the museum. What else are they doing? How innovative can they be, and are they being? We'll hear more about that. We'll also today meet a Bajan Afar, a Barbadian priest who is in the United Kingdom. She lived in St. George. She is now serving as the chaplain to the High Sheriff in Surrey. And we'll get to hear her story for sure as we journey with her in her story. And by the end of it all, we'll talk to our stylist, of course. Stacey will join us to share with us some tips for styling for any look. All that and a lot straight ahead right here on Morning Barbados. But let's start this morning by celebrating with our midwives International Midwives Day today. And we're joined by Michelle Marshall and Crystal Holder, who are both registered nurses, but who are both midwives. Good morning to both of you.
Hi, good morning. Hi, good morning.
Good morning, indeed. Thank you so much for joining us. International Midwives Day. Now, as I said in our teaser a little earlier, some people are asking, we still got them, midwives? Because our perception of midwives are these ladies who live somewhere else, who came to the home to make the deliveries. What do you say? What are midwives today?
Oh, good morning. Thank you very much. Well, we definitely have midwives. As a matter of fact, midwives are very critical to the delivery of our babies in Barbados and by extension the world. Most of the nurses that are currently employed at the polyclinic are actual midwives to ensure that we are able to deliver the antenatal care to those persons in our community.
So midwives primarily just deal with the delivery?
No, actually we're responsible for the prenatal, postnatal, and intranatal care. But I'll let Crystal talk about that a bit.
Okay, so we can find a number of midwives in our antenatal period, as Michelle said. You can find them at polyclinics. You can also find them at our antenatal clinic at the hospital. And midwives are also located on the obstetric department at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital and also in private obstetrician's office.
No, I deliberately did that because the perception is that that is a term or a function that went out years ago. And so all we have are nurses. And I just wanted to make sure that we have that distinction very clear for a number of people that the function of midwifery is still very much a part of our nursing, offer of nursing in Barbados. What's the level of preparation to become a midwife? What, do you go through the same as the ordinary nurse would?
Well, in Barbados, it is a postgraduate qualification. So you have to be a registered nurse at first. And that for a couple of years, maybe 5, 10 years. And then after that, you actually do a post-diploma course at the Barbados Community College. And that allows you to be qualified as a registered midwife. So it's an additional year postgraduate.
Mm-hmm. Crystal, as I alluded earlier, traditionally, the midwife came to the home. The midwife, and you know, there were home births, more home births than in-hospital births. So what's different today? What are your experience today? What's your experience?
Okay, so in Barbados, we don't have midwives practicing coming to your home. So most of the midwives are usually do the deliveries and, as I said, help with antenatal and postnatal in the hospital setting. Mm-hmm. So we don't have the whole birth now. I mean, that's something that we would like to see in the future. And this is something I would also like to venture in. But for now, we only have deliveries at hospitals.
When you say you'd like to see it in the future, why do you say so?
Because sometimes persons feel more comfortable in their environment. And having a home birth or having a delivery in a more comfortable environment, not so medical, can have additional benefits to our ladies.
Michelle, the theme this year is follow the data, invest in midwives. What do you think that means?
Well, this comes from it was in 1987, the International Confederation of Midwives met in the Netherlands, and they had conceptualized May the 5th being International Midwives Day. So we're looking at the world. The world data suggests that we need 900,000 midwives internationally to serve the population that we're hoping to achieve to maintain good birthing standards. So investing in the data means basically anything we can do, and that's why we have come together as midwives, investing in our midwives through education, through empowerment, because we recognize that once you're educated, it can improve clinical outcomes tremendously.
We're seeing declining birth rates in Barbados. We've heard this a lot, the push by the authorities above us that say we have to have more births. So what advice would you, as a midwife, want to give? How do you respond to that, first of all, the effort to encourage more births?
Yeah. Well, I think that if we can subsidize it, in other countries where there have been that recommendations, the governments have taken many initiatives to actually pay the women. So it goes into a feminist narrative, which is really the reproductive role of women and how it can be subsidized. If we're not able to do that because we're a developing country, then I think that is necessary for resources to be put in place for those persons, particularly women who are very educated. Data would suggest would delay birthing and family matters until a later time, and sometimes the time runs out. So maybe by 45 you finish all of your degrees and you're thinking, oh wow, it's not time for me to start a family. Oh, it's too late, so I'll just get a cat.
So the cat will suffice to fill that need. Fair enough. Now, you're doing a number of things to be able to mark International Midwives Day. So what are some of the things on the calendar that you'll be doing today?
Well, today, I think the Barbados Nurses Association, they're having a webinar, but we are also having a webinar on Sunday. So today is a webinar, so midwives definitely should join into the webinar at the Barbados Nurses Association. But us, we're having a webinar on May the 9th, which is Mother's Day, and you really could not have Mother's Day without you having the midwife. So it's really like, stay at home, tune in and get some continuing education credits. Crystal will allude on the poster. Can you discuss that, Crystal?
Okay, so the topic for the session on Sunday is midwives delivering the future of BIM. And this topic was chosen because we believe that midwives have a great responsibility to our society. And every day as we assist ladies in different areas, antenatally, in labor and postnatally, we found that these topics would ensure that we enhance our knowledge and also keep current. So some of the topics that we'll be covering on Sunday is self-care. We know we can't take care of persons without taking care of ourselves. So we have someone to come in to encourage our midwives on how to take care of themselves. We also have persons coming from overseas. We have a registered midwife from Toronto and one from Canada, and they're going to be covering the role of the midwife in this COVID pandemic. And we know that COVID is something unsure, and we need to know what is our roles, if our roles need to improve, if we are going to stay doing the same thing as before. And so it would be interesting to hear the perspective of persons living in other countries. Also, we'll be dealing with breastfeeding, and our other team member, Tanisha Osborne, she will be presenting breastfeeding and COVID. And we have a lot more topics that we're going to cover. It's a packed session. On Sunday, we start at 9:30 and we go straight through the day to 4:30.
So it's because we can't. Yeah, I'm just going to come to that, because we can't meet in person. So how are we going to access all of this information?
Well, the NUPW has graciously sponsored us a Zoom platform. So attached to the poster is the Zoom ID, and you're free to log on. And another plus to this wonderful presentation is that it's free to call, free to everyone, student nurses, midwives, nurses, any person that has an interest in obstetrics can log in, but we only have 100 spaces, so we encourage persons to register early so that you would not be disappointed.
I really think so. We will post that poster on our Facebook pages as well here so that folks can actually see that link so that they can log in very quickly and register, because space is so very limited. You know, midwives delivering the future of BIM, and when you think about it, our future can be... Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, sir. I was saying that I do remember my great grandmother was a midwife. I haven't met her, but I've had stories of her, you know, having her little bag and going to the houses.
Yes.
And in her bag, she would have things like butter. And I thought to myself, well, why would you use butter to go and do a delivery? And she would also have something known as putty. I don't know if the younger folks would know what putty is, but putty is this material that normally builders would use, and they would use to seal cracks.
Yes.
So the speculation or the hypothesis at that time was no air was allowed on the woman, because if she got air on her, she would develop something called a lining cold.
Correct.
Which we've kind of scientifically ruled it out to probably a pulmonary embolism or septicemia secondary to not bathing for 9 days. But there was this kind of rationale that, you know, like, let's seal all of these cracks. And if in fact she was having difficulty delivering, they would get the butter and apply it to the perineum, which would allow the baby smooth delivery. I thought that was so fantastic.
I am telling
you. But now we've evolved, and I'm sure our midwives bag would having things like Dopplers and, you know, probably
those
CCG
fancy
machines.
things, those fancy things.
Yeah, so fancy, and we're able to deliver in water. We're able to deliver on a chair. We're able to deliver on the ground. If you want to have your pets there, you can have your pets. You can have your family, and certainly that is one of the goals of midwives across the world, to reclaim midwives back to themselves, to reclaim the art of birthing to the woman and to her family. That is the hope of midwives across the world. In England and America and most of the international spaces, they've actually gone back to the full circle where women are in fact birthing at home in the comfort of their homes. But we in Barbados, of course, it is a safety before what is trendy, and I could just imagine us having to put things in place to ensure that we maintain the safety of our women while they're at home, to continue to have a very high mortality, infant mortality and maternal mortality that we do currently have in Barbados.
Yes.
Meeting the Sustainable Development Goals, I think that's number 3.
I'm telling you, those stories that you just regaled us with, I along with my 9 siblings, we are all home births. So I know exactly.
Oh my goodness!
Look at you! Look at that! Oh my goodness! So I know of the value of the midwife. I know when she appears what that means, and because we've all been successfully delivered, and safely so, I know the value of the work of the midwife. So I really want to encourage both of you to continue being so forceful in your effort to bring greater attention to the work of the midwives on the island. And I really want to be happy to support you in this, your celebration this year as well. So again, we encourage everyone to come to our Facebook pages, go to your Facebook pages and your social media as well. See that poster that invites you to that big expo on Sunday, that seminar when we look at midwives delivering the future of BIM. It's on Sunday. It starts at 9:30 in the morning, so early o'clock, and then we'll take the whole day to complete it around 4:30. A number of experts will be delivering, and you can actually join. It's absolutely free, but the space is limited, so your registration is absolutely critical as early as possible. Michelle Marshall and Crystal Holder, thank you so much, and happy International Midwives Day, both of you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And remember to breastfeed, ladies. Remember to breastfeed.
I thought you were talking
breastfeeding
to me.
is very important. Remember to breastfeed.
Absolutely right. Breastfeeding is very
men
important.
Support your women as they breastfeed, because it takes a community to raise a child.
Anything else you want to say?
One thing I wanted to say, Mr. Boyne, I know we normally deal with midwifery and we talk about the happy times, but sometimes we have some women that go through, you know, miscarriages, and midwives are also there to assist them and be with them, because that's what midwifery is, being with women. So yes, we always deal with midwifery and we deal with the happy thoughts, but sometimes we need to remember those persons who go through miscarriages and who have stillbirths. And my heart really goes out to them.
Listen, you're going to make me cry this morning. You're absolutely right.
We do have on the seminar, we do have one of our experts, a local retired midwife that taught us at Barbados Community College, Miss Barbara Spooner, and she will be diving into that topic. You know, when you have a stillbirth, how do us as midwives cope? How do we support our women? How do we support our families?
All right.
You know, so
All right,
stay tuned.
Michelle. All right, Michelle. Thank you very much. You know, but you've raised something there I think we can talk about at another time. So I want to thank you so very much for joining us this morning. Have a good day.
Thank you.
You're very
Okay,
welcome.
thank you. Bye.
We're going to take a break right here. When we come back, there's much more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
13 minutes now to go to 7 o'clock, and we want to look now at the work of the museum, particularly in this pandemic where there are so many protocols that prohibit people from gathering in large numbers in person. And we're happy to be joined this morning by the Deputy Director of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society, Kevin Farmer. Good morning to you, Kevin.
Hi, good morning, Pearson, and good morning, Barbados.
Good to see you yet again. Now, this pandemic has, as with every other business, impacted how the delivery of the service is being done. How has the museum itself been impacted, and what is the museum doing to respond to that impact?
The museum, in terms of its visitors, has been severely impacted, not only in terms of our educational outreach, but in fact, revenue. That has been done. But what the pandemic has done, it has taught us to be extremely innovative, and to use that word, to pivot. And our pivot and saving grace has been online. We've turned to our social media, both Instagram and Facebook, to connect with our members, to connect with our public, not only here in Barbados, but in the region and wherever there are Barbadians in the diaspora. And I think that has been a saving grace for us, and it's been a really fantastic engagement. So everything from trivia, doing webinars. In fact, during the first lockdown, we reached out to Barbadians all over the world and asked them to share with us not only stories, but fond memories or something that caught their attention. So persons would have submitted photographs and stories, which we then shared with others. And quite a few people said, especially dealing with their mental health, that ability to share and connect was extremely important and helped them during the lockdown. So I would say moving to online content has been great. But also I want to say thank you to the museum staff. It was a complete staff effort in terms of what we should do and how we should refocus and in fact pivot to ensure that we continue to engage with the Barbadian public that we serve.
So there's been a shift to digital, the digital platform, to be able to allow people to engage with our preserved history. And so because we physically would walk in and we can see things almost and sense them while we're there, now we can't do so. So this shift to digital means now that you can reach so many more people, and you've been able to do so.
And we've been able to do so. It doesn't take away from the physical, because at the end of the day, museums are about objects, but museums are also about connections and stories. And we found that space to reach a wider audience. So our genealogy workshops, which we've done about 3 or 4 during lockdown, have reached an extremely wide audience and got some fantastic, not only just coverage, but connections, which in fact has then led us to do other programs. So it's also about taking account of that viewer feedback, which has then sent us down particular avenues where people might have particular queries. So that has been increasingly important to us. But beyond that, simple things like crossword puzzles or unscrambling words or asking you to identify Barbadians and places has also helped with the engagement. As you might not know, the museum also manages the Exchange Interactive Center, which is next door to the central bank. So it's also interesting during that period to see people engaging with that interactive center, which looks at the history of money and early business in Barbados, as well as the early history of the Masonic Lodge in Barbados as well.
Well, so it's a lot that's happening, and we don't lose that ability to connect with our past. That's so critical.
Extremely.
But part of it is also being able to input things into the museum. And how are you managing that? What are some of the protocols that you would want people to be mindful of as they're making their submissions to the museum?
Well, the virtual submissions are fine. We've since the end of the pause opened back to the public. We're asking persons to call ahead to book tours. We're ensuring full compliance with COVID. After a tour comes through, the museum is sanitized in time for the next tour. That becomes extremely important. And then when persons are interacting with us as it relates to the donation of objects, again, following strict protocols, utilizing that booking of with to see the curatorial staff. So 538-0201 is our PBX number to book tours, but also to visit our museum library, again following strict protocols, and we limit the amount of time that you're there as well. They sanitize after one leaves. The gifting of objects in the museum, we also follow protocols where you have to book that as well with us. Right. And even being current. So for example, with the ashfall that occurred, we've asked persons, some of us like me who would have experienced the 79 eruption, to share with us those stories, both of 79 and of this particular eruption. How are they dealing with that? And that has become also another way in which we've captured contemporary history as it is unfolding.
Love that. But there are other things that are happening at the museum that a lot of us are unfamiliar with. It's not simply walking there to see the regiment uniform and those kinds of things. Talk to me about some of the other initiatives that you guys are engaging with at the museum. Okay, well, I'll speak to maybe four quite quickly. At present, we have two exhibitions up right now. One is called Black Presence, which actually opened just before the first lockdown. We've kept that up. That is a extremely important exhibition that takes a look at Black portraiture from the 17th century to the 19th century, allowing us different views of us and seeing how that has changed, but also at the same time how it then captures our people and having deeper conversations around what such portraits mean. Because you realize that, in some instances, portraits may be used to rationalize racism, but in others, they're also used to combat racism. We also have a new exhibition up featuring the works of Robert McLeod, Atlantic Rhapsody, and that is a landscape and paintings exhibition, which is on till June in Barbados, after which we will have an exhibition on Mr. Grandison, who was a very prolific Barbadian musician, composer and writer, and we'll be exploring his legacy as it relates to music in Barbados, and but also in the United States, where he resided for a very long time. So the Atlantic Rhapsody exhibit runs until?
Runs until June, end of
June. Great.
Yes. And we also have a catalog with that, so persons who have that interest can actually purchase a catalog based on that exhibition from our museum shop. Right. We're still doing curbside pickup at the museum shop as well. So those who are looking for a Mother's Day gift, the museum shop is a place to come.
Sounds that way to me.
There you
And,
go.
and then
And only last, yes,
yes, go ahead. And only last week.
and only last week, we published with the University of the West Indies our Rewriting History series, and Professor Alan Cobley has produced
Yes.
what for us is a very definitive work on Anne Gill
Gale, that's right, or national
as
hero.
our national hero, to explore the truths, to debunk the myths, and to give us a fuller understanding of who she was and the context and time in which the work in which she did allowed her then to be elevated almost a century later to being a national hero. So that's a very important publication for us. And for those of you who've not yet gotten your copy of the museum's journal, please do come down and receive that copy, as well as an edited version of our last lecture series, From Invitation to Deportation, that really explores those 70 years of Rush in the UK.
And I
And
see
in
here
keeping with the
you're going to have another one coming up every Wednesday starting May 12th?
Yes, so starting May 12th, our lecture series begins. It is going to be totally online this year. It's called Fighting for Souls, Spirituality and Religion in Barbados. And it explores all of the major religions on island, how they have evolved, how they've been formed, how they then relate to Barbadians, and how religion has spread. So everything from what we consider to be traditional religions like Anglicanism and Judaism, but also exploring Rastafari and African spirituality, looking at Islam and Hinduism in Barbados.
So it's quite
but also
exploratory. And then the
quite
children's
exploratory.
other things for children now, quickly.
And everything's for children. Since 2012, the Maria Holder Memorial Trust with the museum has funded the creation of a children's gallery. COVID obviously has slowed that down because of the various lockdowns, but we're moving into the final phase of installing that gallery in May, which means that for summer this year, we will have a new interactive children's gallery at the Barbados Museum. And we are really looking forward to that, how it will then be utilized following strict COVID protocols, but also taking advantage of the technology to do virtual tours and ever interactions with that gallery. And that's how we...
Yeah, we're convinced, Kevin, that there's a lot going on, and you found very interesting ways of staying relevant and current at the same time, even though you're a museum. Isn't that interesting? Relevant, current, even though you're a museum.
Well, museums are always relevant and current.
Absolutely. And so I want to thank you so very much for joining us this morning and exciting us about the fact that we can still engage with our past, we can still contribute to our history through the museum and the work of the museum, and just give you guys a call and have that discussion as to how we can tangibly make things happen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Just remember, our stories, our museum.
Absolutely. Kevin Farmer, Deputy Director of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. Before we go to break, let's take a look at today's good decision of the day, which comes to you in association with Glucerna, with nutrients to support your immune system. And today, that good decision encourages you to investigate the situation in detail. Decisions often fail because key factors are missed or ignored from the outset. So, before you can begin to make a decision, you need to fully understand your situation. Start by considering the decision in the context of the problem it is intended to address. You need to determine whether the stated problem is the real issue or just a symptom of something deeper. Wow, investigate the situation in detail. That's your good decision of the day, brought to you by Glucerna with nutrients to support your immune system. A break, then the news.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 7 o'clock in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. Time to bring you up to date with what's happening in news. In what's being described as a landmark ruling in Barbados public law, there is to be no automatic dismissal in the public service in circumstances that involved conviction. This after former security guard Wilbert Lynch's 2011 dismissal was struck down by Madam Justice Shauna Griffith as unlawful and his salary restored. Back in 2010, Lynch was found guilty in the District A Magistrates Court of stealing an $11 bottle of rum from Carlton Supermarket. Even though no conviction was recorded against him, he was dismissed from his job and his appeal to the Privy Council was rejected. His attorney, Gregory Nichols, says the ruling sets an important framework for the future.
The process of fairness has been reinforced by the court in respect of how you discipline public officers. No longer can public officers be disciplined without being present in the room where their matter is being considered. No longer can public officers be disciplined by receiving a letter telling them that they have been disciplined. And the court went through a very systematic process by which it looked at the law. It looked at the law under the Public Service Act, the Code of Conduct and Discipline, the Code of Conduct and Ethics, and also the Code of Discipline in Public Service, those codes, and the interrelation with the Public Service Regulations from 1978.
3 new positive COVID-19 cases have been revealed, 2 males and 1 female, identified from among 401 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Lab on Monday. Meanwhile, 13 people have recovered from the virus and have been discharged. There are now 81 people in isolation. Confirmed COVID-19 cases recorded since March last year until now have moved now to 3,884, and there have been 3,817 recoveries. As revealed, Barbados recorded its 45th COVID-19 related death, a 63-year-old man who was admitted to the Harrison Point facility on April 23rd. 75,006 people have been vaccinated, and to date, 19,985 of them have been fully vaccinated. Another school had to bring classes to a temporary halt yesterday after some teachers complained about respiratory issues stemming from the presence of ash on the compound. When a CBC team visited the Blackman and Gollop Primary School, cleanup efforts were underway. Chief Education Officer Joy Adamson says systems were put in place to keep students engaged during that time.
We had some teachers who reported that they were not feeling, that they were feeling unwell, and they had some respiratory issues, so they had to leave because of the dust. I visited the school myself, and it is pretty clean. There's still some fixing of furniture because, you know, that school would have been used as an isolation center. There was a lot of cleaning to be done. It's a large plant, but the principals have put things in place for supervision, and the students were engaged.
Ms. Adamson also indicated that the issues which resulted in delays at some schools on Monday are being addressed.
At Corajampari, the Form 5s are in. Some remedial work is still going on, but they are working. At Alexandra, we have both the 5th and the 6th form. At Combermere, there were some issues at the start yesterday. Their 6th form is now in. This morning, there was also a report about issues at St. Paul's, and I visited St. Paul's. There's full attendance for the Class 3s on that site. It seems that this morning, Carl Williams turned up to do some work, and we were aware of that, so we actually put a pause so that they will come back later and continue to do the work.
And that's our news until now. We'll take a break right here. When we come back, there's more on Morning Barbados, which includes the Crumbs question of the day.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
6 minutes after 7 o'clock now, time for today's Crumbs question of the day. Time for you to become a winner by calling us on 228-5562 or 228-5563 to answer today's Crumbs question of the day. What is one business value the Crumbs management pushes? What is one business value that the Crumbs management pushes? Give me one, just one. What do you think is one of those business values that the Crumbs management pushes? Have any clue? I can hear you now. I can hear all of you now. Oh, Pearson, were you asking me? So, what is one of those business values the Crumbs management pushes? Call us on 228-5562 or 228-5563 and you could be a winner with us today with Crumbs Bakery. 7 minutes after 7 o'clock, and we turn our attention now to our continuing discussion as we started a couple of weeks ago on ovarian cancer. We're joined by consultant obstetrician and gynecologist Dr. John Barker. Dr. John, good morning again to you.
Hi, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm well as well.
Good.
As well.
So as we continue, let's look back for just a moment
Yes,
to put
please.
things into context. What is ovarian cancer? How does it present? Just walk us back again through that.
Right. Ovarian cancer is one of the deadliest gynecological cancers. The problem with it is that it presents very late in terms of late stages, but in terms of how it can present would include bloating. Sometimes you can get decreased appetite. Usually, sometimes they say that they have a mass coming from the pelvis when they touch it, they feel, or sometimes it can be incidentally, like if you go for a ultrasound and then they find an ovarian cyst for investigating.
Mm-hmm. So not to scare the ladies this morning, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of your process. There are things, there are techniques that you guys can employ to relieve them of some of their concern and stress. So what are some of the techniques to be able to respond to someone who tests positive of having ovarian cancer?
Right. Now, when someone has cancer, it's quite a harrowing experience because the first thing most people think is that they're going to die. That isn't usually the case. In terms of statistics, usually 71% of persons would be alive in the first year, and then it goes down to 42%. And this all depends on the stage. So the first have to be counseled in relation to what the likely prognosis would be in relation to having surgery and then waiting on the lab to get back the results. Essentially, the surgery that one gets is a staging procedure. So once we know the stage, then we can give you the prognosis. But it comes down to counseling because, as I said, it's a very harrowing experience for some. What I would implore is that if a person is diagnosed that they have the family involved or some close person, they may need psychological counseling as well to get through this. But there is hope in relation to the earlier the disease is caught, then the better the outcome.
Mm-hmm. What predisposes generally? I mean, what are some of the things that that make you a likely candidate for ovarian cancer?
Right. Now, as you get older, your risk of ovarian cancer increases. And in relation to the time that you have in relation to having your periods, so the earlier your periods are and the later you get in menopause, that also too increases your risk. Certain gene abnormalities like the BRCA, which is breast cancer gene 1 and 2, they actually increase your risk of both breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And essentially, and then there are some other rare syndromes like Lynch syndrome, which encompasses an increased risk of endometrial cancer and bowel cancer as well. There is a very small risk with HRT, but we must remember that most of the cases are what we call sporadic, meaning that they just form on their own. But these causes, the gene, the BRCA and stuff, they actually increase your risk.
I'm going to come to the
Now,
BRCA because I'm looking at the screen here now. If you can just put that graphic right back up there. And I see amongst all that there is talcum powder.
yes, tau increases your risk slightly. Back in the day, we used to wear gloves with talcum powder and stuff, and that was found to actually increase your risk of ovarian cancer. Or like if you actually put the talcum powder on your chest and stuff, chemicals in that increases your risk. The link between endometriosis is sporadic, and depending on which side of the pond you are, like the Europeans would say that there's no risk in relation to having endometriosis increases your risk of ovarian cancer. So usually I would tell people from our 2014 guideline that the risk is small, if any.
There's a lot of people listening to them and watching and think, oh my goodness, I use talc, I do this, I do that, I don't that. And so they panic. And your assurance today is because of you do that does not necessarily mean that you're necessarily a candidate for ovarian cancer. I'm sure that's what you want to say.
No. It's kind of, I tell people it's kind of the luck of the draw. You can do everything in life and you still get something, but that doesn't mean that you did something that would predispose you to. Usually, as long as you take care of yourself, diet, exercise, healthy lifestyles, don't drink, smoke, then that decreases your risk, but it doesn't put it at zero. So that's what people have to understand. And as you're getting older, you're at risk for certain disorders or diseases. So the more educated you are about these symptoms, then the quicker you would refer yourself to the doctor.
Why is there a link between breast cancer and ovarian cancer?
Right, the breast cancer and ovarian cancer, the link is the BRCA and the family history. So if you have a very strong family history of breast cancer and you have the BRCA, either 1 or 2, then that population has a very high risk of getting ovarian cancer. In terms of screening, if one has a positive BRCA 1 or 2, then they should either see their oncologist who would counsel them about the necessary risks. And if they're deemed fit, then in terms of gynecological perspective, once you reach a certain age, then some would advocate removing the tubes or the ovaries.
So I'm very clear. If you test positive for either BRCA 1 or 2, and you find that you do that, your primary source of the cancer is in the ovaries, the likelihood that it can progress to breast cancer, or does that how it work, or is it vice versa? How does it work?
No, it's usually breast, because sometimes if you have breast cancer, it can spread to the ovaries, something called MEG syndrome, which is rare as well too. But in terms of if you have breast cancer and you have the gene, then the likelihood that your risk of ovarian is actually increased, not the other way around. So it's usually high risk of breast increases your risk of the ovarian disease.
Ooh, it just sounds like so much that women have to manage with. And I know men can also present with breast cancer sometimes as well. So men don't think that you don't have ovaries. And it's very rare.
The last person I saw was when I was a medical student. And that was in 98.
Oh,
that's the only person I'm seeing.
Glad to know it's very rare. You know, us guys, you don't want to have that as another concern of ours.
No.
So is there some way though, having been tested positive for breast cancer, that you can stop the possibility of it also affecting your ovaries?
Sometimes if you have a strong family history of breast cancer and stuff, on discussion with the oncologist, they will determine if you need to be tested for the BRCA mutation. So that's a discussion that the gynecologist wouldn't necessarily have, but usually the oncologist, and then they will recommend if the person would need preventative measures. And you must remember that even if, for argument's sake, you do what we call a salpingo oophorectomy, which is removing the tubes and ovary, there is evidence that says that most of the times the cancer starts in the tubes, the fallopian tubes. However, even if we remove the tubes and the ovaries, you have to be cognizant of a very rare variant called primary peritoneal cancer. which is a variant of ovarian cancer. So even though you remove the ovaries, sometimes you might get this very rare one, and this is essentially whereby you get deposits on the lining of the organs and stuff, which is called the peritoneum. That in itself is rare as well, but it can occur. So even if you remove the ovaries, sometimes it doesn't negate the variant from forming.
But the critical underlying message is the sooner you're able to diagnose, the better your prognosis is.
Yes, please.
All right, so check for your breasts, do your breast screenings as quickly as possible, as urgently as possible, as often as you need to, just to be sure that you can nip a lot of things in the bud. Dr. Barker, as usual, thank you so much. You know, the information
Thanks
is
for having
so
me.
rich, so real, or indeed our pleasure. And I'm hoping that the ladies who are watching are gaining and benefiting from this. Ladies, you got to check. You got to check. Us guys, we have to check too, but you know, ladies, you got to check. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Dr. John Barker, our consultant obstetrician and gynecologist, we were looking today at ovarian cancer. It's linked with breast cancer. And now you know you can do better. All right, let's see if we have our winner today of our Crumbs question of the day. Somebody tells me I'm going to hear a no in my ear. Do I hear a no? Oh, we got a winner. We do have a winner. So let's remind you of what the question was and is for today's Crumbs question of the day. What is one business value the Crumbs management pushes? Give me one. Let's see if you can get this right. You could have chosen the development of entrepreneurs, the marketing of brand, the specialty discounts and giveaways. Either one of those is a management business value that they push. So who is the winner today? That winner today, for real? Who's the winner today? Right, there you go. Wesley Nicholas. Wesley, two first names. Wesley Nicholas, well done to you, sir. You're absolutely right. And you said marketing of brand. Wesley, you seem to know them very, very well. That's good. Very good. Crumbs Bakery. So Wesley, congratulations. Someone from Crumbs Bakery will be contacting you to make arrangements with you to collect your delightful, delicious things coming from Crumbs Bakery. Remember, crumbs, delicious right down to the very last crumb. We're going to take a break right here. When we come back, you get a chance to win with the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
I'm really going to tip my hat off to our producer Nadia and our director Andy for really putting that together. Well done, team. Well done. Thank you. So, folks, it's time for today's quiz right now with the Heart and Stroke Foundation, the Childhood Obesity Prevention Campaign. And we're teaming up with them so we can bring about some real good focus and attention on the good health and nutrition of our children. So you call me now on 228-5562 or 228-5563 and correctly answer this question. What gives carrots that orange color? What gives carrots that orange color? So come, let me talk, let me go. You get a chance to win today with the Heart and Stroke Foundation Childhood Obesity Prevention Quiz. Good morning to you. Hello. Good morning. Don't be shy because I'm not shy. Good morning. 228-5562 or 228-5563. The question is right there on your screen. What gives carrots that orange color? Let's see if we can hear you now. Good morning. While we try to work that out, you keep calling. Don't put down. Don't put down. We'll try to get that sorted out in my ear. But the number to call for those of you trying still, 228-5562 or 228-5563. So listen to your telephone when you call. Do not listen to your television. You'll get confused. Just listen to your phone like you would with any phone call you make. So don't listen elsewhere. Use your ear to listen to your phone. Let's try again. Good morning to you. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Turn down that TV.
Yes, is it the quarantine?
Turn down the TV.
Turn down the TV. Sorry about that.
Turn down the TV. I can hear you, know. I can hear it.
Yes.
Good. So talk to me now. What's your answer?
The quarantine in the carrot.
The who?
Quarantine. The quarantine.
Yeah, but is that all you're going to tell me, or is there more to this? Did somebody give you the answer, or you worked it out yourself?
I worked it out myself.
Yeah, kind of close, but it's not quite what I'm looking for. Try again another time, all right? Thank you so much for calling. You're very welcome. So come, folks, let me go. 228-5562 or 228-5563. The question there on your screen still to be answered. What gives carrots that orange color? Yeah, what does it? I've always wondered. Morning, hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. You sound as though you're very confident. You seem to know.
Most definitely.
What is the answer?
The source of the color is beta carotene.
How you know?
Because I am a scientist.
Because you're a what? A scientist?
Yes.
Me too. But that didn't mean I knew. Have you ever seen any of my experiments? If you ever saw them, you wouldn't want to be a scientist around me for sure. But you're absolutely right. As a beta carotene is the answer indeed. You know, the gentleman came so very close to it. So what gives apples its red color, Miss Scientist?
Riboflavin.
I can't even tell you if you're right or wrong. I honestly can't. But you're absolutely right with answering us today. What's your first name?
It's Dion.
Dion?
Yes, it is.
All right, Dion, you stay right there on the phone. Don't put down. We'll be talking to you to get some other information from you, but you're absolutely correct. Beta carotene is what gives the carrot that orange color. And well done, congratulations to you. And thanks to all of you who've tried today. We're going to be back again tomorrow with another one to test you in our childhood prevention quiz. Let's take a break here. When we come back, there's much more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So, That's Rev Bev, they simply call her. Her name is Beverly Hunt, the Reverend, and that is on her receipt of her appointment as chaplain of the High Street Sheriff in Surrey last week. She joins us right now as a Bajan Afar. Good morning to you, Rev Bev.
Good morning, Pearson.
How are you doing, Rev Bev?
I'm doing fine, thank you. The weather is reasonably good over here and not too hot as it is.
Yeah, that's
lovely.
good to hear. Oh, it is so wonderful. You are what we consider a Barbadian afar, and we are so very proud of your attainment. So tell us your story. When did you leave this beautiful island of ours to head over to England?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me on your show, and thanks to Rael too. I left Barbados from the Williams family in Thorpe's Cottage back in 1967, and found myself in England on a cold, grey, dark September morning. I think it was the first day of September. It was rather cold and very different from anything that I'd left behind.
Yes.
And I'd come here to trying to be a nurse, as many girls and boys did at the time when we left our shows to come to England. So it was nursing and nursing and nursing for about 20 odd years, into becoming a sister and then an educator in a university as a head of department in a faculty of health. And after that then went on to work for an independent think tank in London as a fellow in leadership development for National Health Service senior managers and leaders, and that worked really well.
You left this beautiful island in the parish of St. George to go for a short stint to do your nursing. And there you are still. Was that a part of the plan from the beginning?
No, I have no idea why I ended up here for so long, over 50 years. But it's been 50 years well spent. I think it's been God's plan, not mine actually. Because look where it's got me now as a priest in the Church of England. And I think that over the past however many years, prior to me becoming a priest, it's been something about being equipped for the role that I now have. So it's been all grist to the mill and good work.
Yes.
But as you said, I hadn't planned to be here this long, and I have no idea how that happened.
The decision to enter the priesthood, though, for a lot of people, it's a scary decision to make. You think of the sacrifice and, the things of the world seem so tempting that you don't necessarily want to miss out. So what is it that was in your life that caused you to say, you know what, I will put aside the world and I will now go in service of Christ?
That's a really interesting question, actually. I found myself in tears. I just couldn't understand what on earth was going on in my life. And here I was at one of the best organizations in the country as a fellow, as a black person, that's quite an achievement in itself. And yet, and I was there for 4 years when I got this, what we call the call, God's call to come and be an ordained minister. And I didn't understand it. I really absolutely didn't. And I'd say to any young person, when you get to that stage, it's as if you're being turned upside down and washed and purged and goodness knows what. And it was only after I left the job, clinging by my fingernails to it,
Yes.
And I decided then, no, I'm going to leave. And everybody thought I was totally nuts. But I didn't even know I was leaving. My husband thought I was nuts. And then it was only after I left and I was in church like a week later, and nobody at my church knew that I'd left my job. This minister came up to me and said, I want to talk to you. And I said, what do you want to talk about? And he said, well, come here, let's have a chat. And he said, have you ever thought of being a minister? And that's when the penny dropped. And I thought, so that's what that tears and that stirring up was like all these years, all these months of not understanding what's happening. And then I understood it, and I have to tell you that I really ran away from the church. I ran as fast as I could to get home because it sent tingles down my spine.
That's good. It's for a lot of people, they don't find their purpose, so they drift through life. And here it is, you had the opportunity for someone to point out your purpose and for you to readily accept it. That surely is a call from God and a blessing indeed. And so how has it been, though, as a black female in the Church of England, delivering as a priest?
Yes, I've had a good ministry, I will say, because in a way I came to ministry quite late in life. In a way, some people say quite late. God doesn't do age.
That's right.
But I was about in my middle 50s when I came to ministry. And by which time I'd worked as a head of department, I'd worked in nursing, I was a principal of the London Hospital Medical College for the Dental Auxiliary School. I'd done quite a lot of responsible roles. So when I came to the Church of England, I was equipped in the sense of my ministry to be able to carry it out. And I think that what happened was that I just took it in my stride, and I found it, although not all of my colleagues have found it easy, and I'm really sorry about that, to be honest. But I found it not easy, because that won't be the right word to use. I found it life-giving and quite a calling. And just so wonderful to see people, you know, maximizing their God-given potential when they come to Christ. It was amazing. So I quite like it. And even when I thought I might retire, here I am as a priest in charge of a parish in Purbright, which is quite a lovely parish with some wonderful people whom I minister with and to.
So give me an idea of the composition of your congregation. Are they predominantly black? Are they predominantly white? Who are they?
Well, God has picked me out for a predominantly white congregation. So in my whole ministry, in my whole ministry, I've been a minister to all. I think I've had like one black person in my congregation, or maybe two. So it's always been a predominantly white congregation, and where I am now, it is definitely all white. I'm the only black person in the congregation, in the church on a Sunday.
So how does that work?
And they're lovely.
How does it feel when you have to recognize that you don't see someone looking back at you who looks like you?
I just think that we're all made in God's image, and I try not to let distinction of color get in the way. And I try to nurture my flock, so to speak, and they're quite lovely and accepting of what I offer. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it feels okay to me. I have to say, sometimes you look out and you think, my goodness, Lord, what have you done? What have you done? But then I think, well, God's in control, not me, so I'm going to go with it. So I tend to just go with it, yeah.
In terms of being able, though, I mean, there are differences, and you have to be able to share those differences. When people ask you, where are you from? What do you say?
Barbados.
Ah, and what does it mean?
Once a Bajan, always a Bajan. You can't lose it.
And what does it mean?
I'm a Bajan.
What does it mean to you to be able to say that?
Well, I'm very proud of Barbados, and I'm proud of all that it's achieved over the years. And I might be Barbados by birth and British by residence, which is what I am. And I've also got naturalization because I've been here so long. But in a way, you can't shake off who you are deep in your heart. And my upbringing in Torp's Cottage with my family, my sister, I've got six brothers in Barbados, and a sister whom I absolutely love. And we have such the culture of Barbados is just the one that I remember is just such a wonderful culture that even on Sunday I was preaching to my congregation, but my mother taking us all to church, and she's like Mother Duck with us with the little ducklings behind her, you know, and she had this saying that God doesn't come but he sends. Yes. So my mother's words and my father's their loving upbringing has been the most amazing thing, and I can't shake that off. I just can't.
So how else do you...
And I wouldn't want to.
Amen onto that one. You've got a converted person in your congregation. Or me, don't ever shake it off. So how else do you, live out being a Barbadian in England?
Now that is a toughy one, but what I've been doing, that is a bit of a tough one actually. I still do kind of Bajan cooking, to be honest. And when I open my mouth, sometimes you get the accent on some words, but not on all. And people say, "Are you from Barbados?" And I say, "How did you guess?" And there's that, and I don't know. I don't know. It's just the way I am, the way we are as a culture and as a people. I have to confess that I haven't hung on very strongly to the Bajan culture, because after 50 years, it is going to be diluted.
Yes,
But
yes.
I treasure what there is of it.
Is that a photograph behind your head? I was trying to see clearly you.
That's my mother.
Yes. That's Mummy right there. So Mummy is always present.
She is always present. She died about 8 years ago, and I've got Pops here. Pops is my dad. I've got him here in the windowsill as well.
Wow.
You can't see him because I had to put the blind down, but I talk to them and have them ever present. So that's just a really amazing thing to be able to do.
That is beautiful. Oh, this is really nice. I have to really connect with you this morning. Now, a couple of things I always ask our Bajans of her. One, if you were to return to Barbados and land on this island right now, where is the first place you'd like to go?
I'm going to go straight back to Torp's Cottage, because that's where I was born and that's where the family house is. I'm going to go there and have a survey the land, so to speak, and check it out. And
good. So that's one thing.
And
the second question is, what's the first thing you'd like to eat if you were to land on Barbados right now?
I haven't tasted breadfruit for so long, and a couple of flying fish, that I would love to have a beautifully Bajan fried flying fish, seasoned, well seasoned, bit of spice, and some lovely stewed breadfruit, which I would absolutely, with butter, which I would absolutely adore. Give me peas and rice, I can do that myself. But breadfruit and flying fish, I haven't tasted for years.
Beverly, thank you so much, Reverend Beverly Hutt. It is indeed a pleasure interacting with you this morning. Your nephew, Ruel, he's here. He's with us this morning. And I know he's watching and probably feeling very proud to see you on the TV as well. Could you say hi to your relatives while you're there now? Just say hi. They're watching, I'm sure.
All right, just hi everybody in Barbados, and hi to my lovely brothers and sisters. That's Grantley, Andy, Michael, Tony, Ian and Bentley. And I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. And my lovely sister Shirley and all your family. Just wonderful to connect with Barbados this morning. And Lyndon and myself and Jeff and all the kids say hi.
Beautiful. Reverend Beverly Hunt joining us from the UK. Beverly, thank you so much. Have a great day and all the best.
Thank you, Pearson, and all the best to you too. Lovely speaking with you.
Likewise.
God bless
you.
you
So very much. And you, thank you so much. Beverly Hunt, our Bajan from afar. It's 22 minutes now to go to the hour of 8 o'clock. When we come back, we're talking about leading beside, and we get to meet the author of that very inspiring book. Stay with us. We'll now talk a little bit about the next chapter of whose life, indeed. This next guest of ours, you've seen grown up literally right here on CBC TV8. And we've seen her
Oh my
sing.
God.
She's feeling away already. Let me just tell you who she is. Dr. Suzette Husbands, good morning to you.
Good morning.
But I'm right.
When you said that, I had a moment. Oh my gosh.
I am sorry. I remember watching you grow up and watching you sing and minister in such a powerful way on TV8. So it is our pleasure.
TV8, yes.
It's our pleasure to have you this morning because you're now an author as well, apart from just the minister.
Yes.
And you're about to release, if you haven't yet done so, your latest publication, Leading Beside. Tell us a little bit about you. I know you grew up around ministers yourself, having married a minister as well.
Yes, actually, I'm also, so good morning, Barbados, and good morning officially to you, Pearson, and to everybody. I'm actually a PK, so I'm a pastor's kid as well. So my father was a minister, my aunt was a minister, my grandfather was a minister.
Wow.
I'm married to the minister, I'm a minister, my brother is a minister. So I've had, ministry all over me. I can't really escape it,
Yes.
But it's also a joy to be a minister myself in my own right. And so I'm a mother of 4 sons. I've been married to Dr. Husbands, Mornin Husbands, for 31 years.
Wow.
So that's a long time.
Yeah.
We have 4 adult sons who are between the ages of 28 now and 22. So they're getting old, thank God. And been pastoring in full-time ministry for just about 10 years or so, but spent a lot of my secular life in the HR field. So that's my area of expertise. I counsel, I am in charge of women, a ministry called Suitable Helps that really focuses on the development of women holistically. Not just wives, but all women. And those are the kind of things that I've been involved in, very active in my church, still singing, but not like that.
Yes.
Not like that. Ministering the word and teaching, and those are the kind of things I've been involved in over the years.
I know you've been led to write, to pour out onto the pages all that you are, all that you've been through.
Yes.
And I like the theme, leading beside, because you could lead from the front, but you're saying leading beside. Help me understand how that is leadership, leading beside.
Well, the whole concept of leading beside really is focused on within the context of marriage. And, there are partnerships that you have outside of the marriage context, whether you are an assistant to somebody or, you and a person are partners in a company. So those are leading beside dynamics. The idea there is that you appreciate the value that the other person brings to the table and that you yourself bring. You recognize that this is co-leadership, that together we are moving towards goals. We're seeking to achieve the things that we want to, and nobody is left behind. So even though within the context of marriage, you have the man who is the head of the household, you still have a very strong woman who is next to that man, who is a leader in her own right. She may be leading in the corporate world. She may be leading in her church. She may even be the pastor of that man. How do you do that effectively? Still bring out your values and your quality and add your contribution to the world, and still recognize and appreciate the leadership that he brings as well to the table. So it's an interesting dynamic to be in. And so the book kind of explores those dynamics, helping women specifically and also helping men to open their eyes to the value that a woman brings to the table as she sits beside him in leadership. That's the idea.
That's interesting. That's very interesting because I can well imagine the conflict that is potential within a situation like that, because us guys, we see ourselves in a particular way, and then by extension we see the women in a particular role as well. So to be able to be mature enough and confident in oneself to be able to have that discussion and that understanding requires a great amount of communication. I'm sure that's also going to be one of the underlying threads in the book.
Yes. Yes, most definitely, because communication is, where you've developed the skill of being able to talk with the person, to interact with the person, to value the other person's opinion and they value yours, to see that all two of us have something to offer because we are born with a gift, we're born with abilities, we're born with ideas and concepts that we bring to the table. How do I get both of those now? Instead of just one plate of food, I have two plates, I have two different meals to serve, and you can get a buffet out of our lives rather than just a one plate meal. You see what I mean? So that's the kind of idea. Nothing is undervalued. Both of us have something to offer. And so let's benefit from that synergy, that double, that is greater than the one of individual parts. So that's the kind of idea that we're talking about there.
And for a lot of people, some would say that's easier said than done, because I'm very strong-willed, and therefore, I have my need for my own recognition. So how do how does the book in any way help with that person who feels very confident as the individual who's now asked to share the space with another individual who's perhaps equally confident?
Yes, it certainly does. It certainly reflects my own marriage. I have a very strong husband who's very focused. You know him, so you know that that's the kind of person he is. And so the idea really is to, once you see the value in the other person, and that's so important. When you see that somebody has within them something to bring, then you are able to accept and appreciate that, because none of us are so complete in ourselves that we don't need other people, that we don't need that additional. Remember when God created Adam, out of Adam he pulled Eve, which meant that Adam from day one had a deficiency. And I say it carefully. In other words, there was something missing. That wife, that woman comes into your space and adds back what was missing. And so once you see that, then you don't say, well, I'm so strong-willed, I'm so perfect in my own self that I don't need anybody else. You recognize, no, there's some things that I need to work on. There's some values, there's some perspectives that I need clarity on. Let me focus on how can I get this person to assist me on that journey? Because the idea is that you're helping each other along the journey so that you as a woman can flourish in purpose, as well as you can stand on the sidelines. You can cheer, you can shout out for, you can hurrah and keep lots of noise for your spouse as they also achieve the things that they should achieve.
There are a lot of people who find
that's where we're coming from.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good book on a good path towards healthy relationships, but there's some people who make some very unhealthy choices in those in who they associate themselves with. Does the book also tackle such a subject and helping us to define who's the most likely best candidate to associate oneself with?
It doesn't necessarily speak specifically to choosing a partner. It really more gives you an overview of some of the things that you will need to understand if you are going to choose a partner. So if you're going to walk into the relationship, one of the chapters talk about backseat driving. So if are you going to be sitting in the backseat and criticizing and jeering and making comments, or are you going to sit in the front seat and sometimes play the role of navigator and sometimes play the role of driver? So those are the kind of things that it does. It creates a mindset that helps you to be able to walk into the marriage or continue the journey in marriage, cognizant of some of these important things. Your own ability to do your best and to function at your best, and then your ability to draw the best out of the person that you are associating with. So that's the kind of perspective that it comes from. So you've already chosen. But having chosen, have you considered all of these things in terms of making sure now that the marriage flourishes and you actually lead beside this person, not behind them, not battered, not being dragged along, not in front of them, but next to them as you walk on that journey.
This sounds like something that is so required today, and I think the timing is absolutely right. And so to find the copy of the book, Leading Beside, how can we access all of these wonderful gems that you've got in store? Well,
actually, Pearson, you'd have to pre-order it at this point. So you can, I have my information there. You can connect with me if you want to. My cell number is a 233-2193. I would have shared with you a picture of my contacts. I'm not sure if you have that available with you that you can put it up, but you can email me at drsueinspirations@gmail.com or call me at 233-2193. Those would be the numbers that you can reach me at. So the book is, you can pre-order the book at this point. It will be available on Amazon soon, but you can pre-order the book at this point.
It is so critical.
In addition to that, though, Pearson.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was saying in addition to that, I have also written another book, 30+1 Transformational Thoughts. And this is currently available, so you can actually get a hold of this. This is really thoughts that have been lifted from the book of Job. And it's so interesting because Job would have said lots of things, and we only see Job in the light of the fact that he lost everything.
Yes.
But he said some very critical things that you can apply to your life that this book also highlights. Really, really powerful book. I enjoy reading it myself. It talks about things like, if I were you, when people struggle with their personality. It talks about things like fearing our fears. It talks about commitment to truth, certain things, habits that we need to develop so that we can progress in our lives. So this is actually currently available. You can get this right now in Barbados. It is online on Amazon, and it's also here. So again, if you needed to reach me, you can reach me at 233-2193 to get a copy of that. But that's a powerful, life transforming book. What it really does is that it then gives you some action points that you can use to move yourself forward. So if it's habits, sorry.
I tell you what, Dr. Sue, because we have the time, but we will post all of your contact details on our Facebook pages so everyone will see. One. Secondly, because I'm enjoying this so much and immensely, I hope you'll say yes to join us again so we can delve even further into some of the concepts that you've been talking about. She said yes. So Nadia, make note, she said yes on TV, so she can't now say no. But I want to thank you and encourage everyone to really get out there and get copies of these books because they're life-changing. They can make a tremendous difference to one's experience. So Dr. Sue, all the best. Wonderful as always
Thank you
engaging
so much.
with you. You're very welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Reverend Dr. Suzette Husbands, the author of the book, Leading Beside. You can pre-order it. The details you will find on our Facebook page in just a moment. But we're back right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're looking at etiquette now with our coach and stylist, Stacey Brown. Stacey, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. How are you doing?
I love to be surprised by your background, girl. We don't have a lot of time, Stacey, so you hold my hand, I'll hold yours, and we'll walk right through this together. So today we want to look at some styling tips for the changing looks that we have.
For any look.
Any
for
look.
any woman.
So, for a woman. Okay. So
Yeah.
where do we start?
So today we can look at, we live in the Caribbean, and I love vibrant colors.
Mhm.
And I think a woman wearing really vibrant colors can wake up any room she walks into. So that is something that we can use to bring personality, because yellow brings joy and happiness, and
Yes.
red brings strength and power. So we can look at different colors and even pair different colors together to have a different feel. So that's a really good trick for any lady who wants to think about changing her look. And moving on, we can also look at balance and proportion. I am really big on balance and proportion.
And this goes with the body. This goes with the body, the type of body you have.
Everybody has a different body type. And we need to consider this as ladies when we get dressed. And we want to walk out feeling confident and good about ourselves. So it's really important to ensure that you have a balanced look. So if you're wearing something baggy or loose on top, you can think about wearing something tighter on the bottom just to bring that balance. Because you don't ever want to do too much of one thing in one look. And then the last one is patterns and prints. Now, people have recently trending towards doing mix and matching for prints, which I absolutely adore. I had a client that loved mix and matching prints. So you can do a polka dot on top, and you can do a stripe using the same color palette in the same outfit. So stripes and polka dots can actually go.
You ain't gonna tell me I'm wearing
those
stripes
are
and
things
polka
that we can
dots
think
today.
about when we're stepping out.
You're quite right, Stacey, and I'm so glad that you've talked about the mix and matching, the tricks of patterns and stripes and so forth, because there's so many creative ways that we can express oneself and have a different look each and every time. That's important. I like the fact that you're talking about balance and proportion as well, because we all have different body types. And sometimes we have to be mindful of too much or too little going into the wrong direction. So find the right fit for the particular body type, and you are going to be stunning. You're going to make a tremendous difference whenever you walk into a room. And then the kind of color, how that color can change. Red being one of power, blue being serene and calming and very much in control. All of those things are absolutely critical when one is deciding how to style and to get oneself ready for those different looks as well. We gotta go, Stacey. But as always,
Yes, thank you so much, Pearson.
As always, you've inspired us with the way you've decorated your backdrop. Love it. Thank you so much,
Thank
Stacey.
you.
Catch you next time. All right, that's it for today, everybody. We thank you so very much. We encourage you to check our social media pages. We'll post Dr. Sue's contact details there. And as soon as you can, engage. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning, Barbados, good morning.